Though there has definitely been a lapse of time, and my apologies for last week. Sometimes I am able to speak in the seminaries, which are the post high school, pre-college yeshivas for girls. So I had an opportunity, so I didn't want to not take it. And I could only do Monday night. So my apologies for that. But we're back in the Mishnah. I'm just jumping around a little bit, only because Pirkei Avot is long and dense, and I just tend to focus in on Mishnahs that I think will leave a lasting impression. Not that all of them aren't relevant. They really are all relevant. And even the ones that I choose, sometimes they seem very cryptic, or, really, like these are his like his most important words of the sages. It almost seems like the way it's written is almost cryptic. And so we're going to chapter 3, verse 14, if you have the Koran edition, it's on page 72. And we're learning about Rabbi Dosa ben Harkinas, who lived who suffered through the destruction of the Second Temple, and was then one of the Chachamim, one of the sages who rebuilt Judaism in Yavne, after they were exiled from Israel. So these are the words of Rabbi Dosa ben Harkinas, chapter 3, verse 14. Rabbi Dosa ben Harkinas Omer, Shena shel Shachris, sleeping late in the morning. V'yayin shel Tzoharayim, drinking wine in the middle of the day. V'sichas hayaladim, chattering. The chattering of children, it says chattering with children, but that's actually not the actual Hebrew. The chattering of children, or chattering children. V'yeshivat bate knesiot shel amei haaretz, and sitting in gatherings with amei haaretz, people who might drag you down. Motziin es ha'adam min ha'olam. All these things drive a person from the world. Okay, these are very strange things. Sleeping late in the morning, drinking wine at midday, chattering like children, and sitting in gatherings of the ignorant, sort of, amei haaretz. These drive a person from the world. Now, when you look at this Mishnah, you see that to at least to some degree, it moves chronologically through the day. That he's describing almost like a cause and effect, a causal relationship. It begins with this, and then it leads to this, which can lead to this, which could lead to that. Almost like a causal cause and effect throughout one's day. And also, as we're going to discover, he's talking about a phenomenon that can happen in one's life. That morning it represents the early part of a person's life. Midday represents later youth, and like the very fertile and powerful time of life, and on and on. So he's describing something that we have to be incredibly careful about. We all struggle with it. I guess some of us struggle more with it more than others. I certainly struggle with this. I think we all struggle with this. I know we all struggle with this. And what he's really pointing to, whether it is a phenomenon that runs through one's day, or he's discussing a quality that runs through one's life, he's asking us to be exceedingly careful about escapism. It's very interesting. This was written, let's say, for simplicity's sake, 2,000 years ago. It's inconceivable that anyone, I mean, even with the wildest, most graphic imagination could imagine even the kind of escapism that we have today. I mean, it's unimaginable when you think of what people's lives were like back then, how simple their lives were back then, how basic, how few the temptations were, how there just took so much just to survive. So it's what he's saying here. Really, now in our world where there are so many ways to escape, the Rabbi Dr. Abraham Twersky, Olav Shalom, who was the great psychiatrist and brother of our rabbi, Rav Michael Twersky, he used to say, in the beginning, of course, he worked with addictions. He used to say, in the beginning, I called it alcoholism, but then I recognized that there were drugs, so I called it chemicalism, and then I called it this ism and that ism. But none of those isms ever covered the whole like existential dilemma. And so I finally decided to call the whole thing escapism. That living life, that showing up for life. And I'm thinking, Han, I'm thinking of what you talk about with Stand With Us, because I think that you really embody this quality very beautifully with the work that you do. In the opposite, the positive quality is really zerizus or zerizut. It means get up and go and do. Actually, I think it's Parshas Vayera. I think it's in this week's Parsha that it says 3 times that Avraham kum baboker, that he woke up right away, first thing in the morning, for different mitzvot that he did throughout the chronology of the Parsha. It talks about this quality of Abraham's, it says, Va'avraham kum baboker. It means he woke up with this incredible zeal, with this incredible alacrity to do the ratzon, to do the will of his creator. I'm pretty sure that it says of Abraham kum baboker 3 times in our parsha this week. So that Abraham got up, that no rationalization, no, I can't do it now, it's whatever, no, no temptation, no kind of seduction of his mind or anything could detract him from getting up and going. And this is really what this Mishnah is talking about. This Mishnah, Rabbi Dosa is saying that human beings, we're not angels, we're not just souls unfettered by bodies. We are a neshama, we are a soul encased in a very, very physical body. And the nature of the human being is heavy. The nature of the human being is to avoid spiritual growth, or to put it off, or to not choose it. And even though this was written 2,000 years ago, it really speaks to the fact that human nature avoids and dismisses and puts off what's difficult, but what's really truthfully why we're here. And of course, we know that really is good, as it says in the beginning of the story of creation, that when God creates the Yetzer Hara, when he creates man, it was very good. So all the other days that he creates the sun and the moon and the grass and the animals and everything, and it was good. And it was good, and it was good. But when he creates the human being, it was very good. And the sages say, why very? Why ma'od? Why is very inserted? Because God creates the human being who desires to serve God and get up and go and do good and do mitzvot. And he created the Yetzer Hara, the spiritual counterforce, the antithesis to spirituality, the pull down from the desire to do good. And that, he says, and that the Torah says is very good. All of creation gets the appellation good. But on the 6th day, it's very good, because the human being is created with a desire to strive and then a massive counterforce in the opposite direction. And I think we can all relate to this. I mean, it can be in any sphere. It can be what we choose to put in our body, what we choose to, but what we choose to say, what put in our mouth, take out, what the words that come out of our mouth, the things how we waste time, how we kill time. We are avoidant of the seriousness of life. And Judaism never ever dismisses that we should enjoy life, and the world is created for our pleasure, and we should take pleasure, we should have fun, and we should enjoy things, but ultimately have a relationship to life as actually serious, and that this really is our lifetime, which we know doesn't last forever, is really the time to make something of ourselves, to become the best people we can be. So we are created with this powerful, heavy counterforce so that we can choose life, so that we can actually use our free will to make good choices. But it's really hard. We think we're making good choices, but if you really look throughout your day, you'll see that Rabbi Dosa's words, even though you might say, what, like sleeping late in the morning and drinking wine in the midday, but let's analyze each one of these kind of aspects of escapism so that we can look at our own life and maybe counteract some of the drive toward wasting time that is in all of us. It's a very, very strong part of all of us. So he begins with Shena Shel Shacharit. Okay, so this could mean, our sages say, Shena Shel Shacharit could be oversleeping. It could either mean sleeping very late, or it could mean elsewhere it's translated as like taking a nap in the morning. And somewhere one of the commentaries writes, it's not natural to take a nap in the morning. After an afternoon of activity, to come home and to close your eyes, that is according to the rhythm of the human being. But to wake up and then to go back to bed, that's one of the possibilities of Shena Shel Shacharit, or it could just mean literally missing the morning prayers because we're sleeping in. But either way, Rabbi Dosa says, oversleeping, that to a large degree, sleeping is sort of that avoidance. There's healthy sleep, and then there's the sleep of avoidance of life. If anyone who has experienced any depression knows, like, you just want to sleep. It's a very, very common to just want to sleep. So Rabbi Dosa says, treating the morning like without the sensitivity of the possibilities of the morning and like choosing to escape from it. But yayin shel soharayim, drinking wine at midday, I think what this is saying is that while alcohol is not considered, like, it's considered a fine thing to do in moderation, taking the middle of the day, I mean, it's funny because even socially and culturally, the concept of 5 o'clock, it's almost like having a drink after 5. It's almost like an intuitive awareness that alcohol and the symptoms of alcohol, sort of the negative trajectory of alcohol, doesn't belong in the middle of the productivity of the day. So kind of giving up the power of the morning by caving into sleep, giving up the potential of productivity by drinking in the middle of the day. Sichat hayeladim, it says chattering with children, but there's no with in this in the Hebrew. I think what it's saying here is not the beautiful chattering of children themselves. I think what this is referring to is when we chatter like children. And when I was thinking about this, I was thinking, what is a child? Really, what is a child? And one of the things that is very interesting about children is that even neurologically, their prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that sees that if I do this, then this is going to be the consequence. The part of the brain that says, I might want this now, but I know that if I do it now, then I'll suffer later. So I'm going to exercise restraint. The part of our brain, the cortex, that understands, that thinks in linear ways, that says, if this happen, if I do this, then this will happen. This whole aspect of children, of the brain of children, isn't developed yet. So Sichat HaYeladim, I think, is saying, I mean, I didn't read this, but I was just thinking about it. Sichat HaYeladim is like when we chatter, like when we use the power of our speech without the ability to say, you know what, if I say this, it's going to have these kind of consequences. I might feel like making a joke at this person's expense, but how would I feel if someone made a joke at my expense in that way? The part of us that can actually have a drive and monitor it, that happens as the brain develops. And so I think what this is saying is when we chatter, when we use the power of speech, when we sort of cave in to like just saying what we feel like and not thinking through this gift of speech and this powerful gift that we are given of the ability to process information and form words and create meaning with words. And I mean, just the concept of language and to understand people and to communicate, that sort of gratitude and awe for the gift of speech, when we just chatter like children, meaning we don't think about the seriousness of the gift of speech, that's another aspect of that takes somebody out of the world. And the last one is Bishivat Bate Knesiot Shel Ame Haaretz, sitting in gatherings of the ignorant. Okay, I don't know exactly what that means, but I think that one thing it's referring to is how influenced we are by other people. It's extremely naive to think that we are not influenced by the people around us. So when we kind of mindlessly don't choose or non-consciously just allow ourselves to just be with people that and not face the reality that they influence us for the negative. So all of these things are just kind of surrendering to escapism. So whether it's through sleep or whether it's through sleep, sleep represents consciousness, being awake and alive, drinking wine, which represents kind of temptation and escapism and leaving reality, chattering like children, which represents really not owning the gift of speech and the responsibility that comes with it, and not acknowledging the power of the influence of people around us and choosing carefully. These things, motzian es ha'adam min ha'olam, they take somebody out of the world. Now, what does it mean that they take somebody out of the world? Does it mean, and first of all, they're not terrible sins. Sleeping late, having a drink too early in the day, chattering kind of mindlessly, not being so careful who we surround ourselves by. These are not terrible sins. So what does it mean that it takes us out of the world? So many times in Talmud and in our Jewish sources, we hear Motzian es ha'adam min ha'olam, this phrase, they drive a person from the world. So to really understand that, I think it pays to learn the Ramchal, because the Ramchal, Rav Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, he speaks at length about what this world is about. A lot of his work is what this world is about. So even if you just study the first chapter, which I think we should do one day, it is so worth studying. But he says at length that a person has to be really, really clear about what this olam, about what this world is for. What is the purpose of this world? And if we don't understand it, and if we're not growing towards moving away from escapism, we all do tons of escapism, whether it's through food or movies or alcohol or smoking pot. I mean, everyone's got their form of escapism. Many people have many forms of escapism. Some people's escapism, it goes on and on and on. And part of it is just human nature. But the human nature that we are not angels, we are human beings, and we have a body and it pulls us down, and we have a Yetzer Hara, which is the counterforce to getting up and going. It's the counterforce to Zerizut, to alacrity, to zeal. But what we want to do is not change overnight, but we want to grow in Zerizus. We want to grow in alacrity. We want to grow in what really is said over and over again in our parsha. But Avraham kum baboker, he got up straight away and to do the will of God. We want to bring more alacrity into our lives. And so I really did appreciate what you were bringing up, Hannah, because you can feel the alacrity that you feel for bringing awareness about anti-Semitism to the world, and the responsibility we have to teach our children and grandchildren. And that's sort of, yes, I'm ready. I'm ready to be a part of God's big plan. We want to wake up to that. We're not going to change overnight, but we want to wake up with that. We want to wake up to that. The trait of laziness is really dangerous. It leads to a lot of not good things. And we really, the truth is, the human being can't focus on more than one thing at once. So when we're focused on like the temptations, or just giving into our bodies, or giving into our desires, we can't focus on the reality of life, which Rav Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, the Ramchal, says this is a short world. This world doesn't last forever. We don't know when this world is going to end, but this is the world where we have a soul in a body. We have an energizing spiritual drive encased in a body, and this is the world we're supposed to do. This is the world where we are supposed to use our body as a vessel to do spiritual things, meaning to bring joy to people, to help people, to give tzedakah, to elevate people's moods, to do mitzvot, to learn Torah, to give people the benefit of the doubt, to any mitzvah at all. While the soul is in the body, our job is to use that body to give life, to give physical form, to get up and go and use it like as a vessel to make mitzvahs happen. Right? As the Talmud says, you can't give tzedakah without your hand. You can't visit the sick without your legs. So the body is very heavy and can pull us down into overeating, oversleeping, over drinking, over watching, over blah, blah, blah. We all struggle with it, every single one of us, some more than others, but we can all identify with this. But that very body that is so inertia can pull us toward inertia, that same body is given to us. I mean, we're so used to this, we don't think, but it's like, okay, we've got these hands and we've got these legs that move us, and we've got these ears to hear. We've got this mouth to speak. We've got this processing ability to communicate. We're created with needs so that we're not totally independent, so that people can give to us. Other people are created with needs so that we have the opportunity to give to them. The more you wake up to the fact that the more you allow yourself to see divinity in this world, the more you understand, I've got a job to do. This world is clearly created for a purpose. The same body that pulls me toward inertia is given to me in order to make mitzvahs happen, because the neshama has no legs. The soul, the spiritual part of me, has no way to get going. It requires a physical body to make it happen. So I'm always, all the time, I'm at a crossroads of what I'm going to do with this body of mine. I can let it fall into temptation, inertia, lethargy, giving in, laziness, whatever, or I can understand that it's actually given to me in order to physicalize, to make possible, to bring into the physical world all my spiritual drives. So I'm the chooser. And I think that this is really what, wait, I just lost it, 1 second. Oh, this is really what I think he's saying. He's saying, what are the things that drive a person from the world? What is the world? The world is this world, the world where we have a body, because once we die, we're only spiritual, which means that really, ultimately, whatever we created of ourselves in this world is what we're going to be in the next. It's what we're going to have in the next. There are no legs to go visit someone who's sick. There are no hands to give tzedakah. There is no mouth to say loving and reassuring words. In the next world, I'm divested of this body. So this is the world of doing. I can't do, I can only be what I've done in this world. This is why he's saying, be so careful, because you're created with a very strong drive to give into your body. Just give into your body. And know that the body is actually created for the opposite, which is to give life to your mitzvot. So this is really, I was going to read, right, hold on 1 second. Right, he says, I'm going to read something. Yes, interesting. Well, first of all, I'm going to read something to you from Proverbs. I love this. This is about laziness, but really it's about just succumbing to the body, and what Shlomo HaMelech, what King Solomon warns us against. Lazy bones, go to the ant, study its ways and learn. Without leaders, officers, or rulers, it lays up its stores during the summer. It gathers in its food at the harvest. How long will you lie there, lazy bones? When will you wake from your sleep? A bit more sleep, a bit more slumber, a bit more hugging yourself in bed, and poverty will come calling upon you, and want like an armed soldier. Okay, that it's very deep. This is from Mishlei, from Proverbs, but in essence, what I think that it's saying, and then I want to open it up to the group, is the ant and every animal and every creature in the animal kingdom, all they do is what they're wired to do. The ant is industrious, and the cat, the cat does the cat thing, right? Every animal is wired to be what an animal is meant to be. They don't have free choice. Look at the ant, King Solomon says. Look how industrious it is. And you, who are given such an amazing mind, you are hugging yourself in bed. And so I think Rabbi Dosa's main point for us is we have to be really, really careful not to waste a lot of our time and really our life. And this is very hard. It's very hard not to waste time. There's a lot of temptation. I don't mean sin or terrible things. I mean, it's so easy just to do this, and it's so easy just to do that. So the antidote, the Ramchal says, ironically, and not ironically, but interestingly, is gratitude. The Ramchal says that when a person wakes up to how amazing this world is, and how amazing human life is, and looks at life philosophically, understands it doesn't last forever, understand that we grow, and as we get older, we get we get more powerful, and then we get older and we start to wane, and we have this to sort of study life and understand we're clearly here for a reason. We're meant to do something. I don't want to get dulled by the world. Just because I've always had, Alan Marinas says, I'm 65 years old. For 65 years, I've had a warm bed. I don't wake up in the morning and say, a warm bed. Because whatever, I've woken up to a warm bed. So the Ramchal says it's gratitude and awareness that everything is a gift, and we're not entitled to anything. The more we study the world and see the gifts of the world, even though the world is difficult right now, everyone's concerned about the state of the world. I don't think there's a person who's sentient and normal who doesn't have concerns about the world right now. Wherever you're coming from, I don't know anybody who doesn't have a sense like these are strange times, these are unprecedented times, these are challenging times, these are disturbing times for many, many different reasons. But that does not preclude us really looking at life and understanding that in order for me to cultivate enthusiasm is gratitude, to recognize this. Alan Marinas says here, what's the connection to the soul trait of enthusiasm? When you truly realize that you receive gifts every day, and when that recognition really penetrates, then you'll be spurred into action to be of service and to do good and to make good of yourself, simply because it has become palpably clear to you that you are holding gifts in your hands. Living with awakened gratitude delivers fuel to make our actions more energetic. When you spark the flame that ignites the fire, and so lift yourself out of the heavy lethargy or frantic worry that can paralyze your life, you will have begun a process that will build on itself. So what is he saying here? He's saying that the more you recognize the gifts, the more you're spurred on to do something with them. So ironically, interestingly, not seeing the good can dull our senses. Seeing the good and being in awe of the good builds gratitude, which gets us wanting to do and give more. So beware. And I think I want to open it up to the group now with the question of, it's very easy to just hear this and go back to our ways, so how can we deepen this quality or this trait of zerizus, of getting up and going and doing and taking advantage of life and relaxing when we need to relax and chilling out when we need to chill out, but not living to chill out, chilling out in order to replenish ourselves so we continue to want to do good in a world that's confusing, in a world that can be disturbing, with living with the anxiety that so many of us live with. How can we break through and live with this quality of zerizus and understand that this body that just pulls us down so much is actually there to give life and make mitzvahs happen and make good things happen. And every organ is meant to be used to do something good. How can we live with clarity in a world where it's just so unclear? And I'm going to end with that, because and then I'm going to open it up to the group. But I think it's one thing that's really interesting that Rabbi Dosa says: sleeping late in the morning, drinking wine at midday, chattering like children, sitting in gatherings with people who will bring you down. Motzin es ha'adam min ha'olam. They drive a person out of the world. And interestingly, the word for world is olam. And it's etymologically, or really is not even, it's the same word as ne'elam. Ne'elam means hidden. Hidden, meaning this world is divinity. It is God. But God constricts himself and hides himself so that it's not obvious. But a careful person, a person who's alive, a person who's awake and alive, a person who's working on themselves is going to find godliness in your personal life, in your own personal story, in what's events of the world. Even if we don't like what we're seeing in events of the world, I mean, you're going to find God if you're looking. But if you're not looking, you won't. So I think what Rabbi Dosa is saying is, these things keep you in ne'elam. They keep you not seeing. You're just kind of blah, and blah leads to blah, which leads to more blah. So when you're like that, when you're living like in that level of awareness, then you are taken out of olam, out of the world, and you're living in ne'elam. You're living in the hiddenness of God. You're not seeing it. So always remember that the word for world and the word hidden, they're the same word. And we know that in Hebrew, everything that in the Hebrew language is intrinsically meaningful, meaning it's essentially meaningful. It's the divine tongue, meaning these are not just cute connections. They're meant to tell us deep, absolute, intrinsic truths about existence. This world is where God is hidden. So Zerizus helps us unpeel or take off the things that hide God from this world and find God in this world. But lack of alacrity, laziness, escapism keeps us in a consciousness, in a lack of consciousness, where in fact God is very hidden. And just like in hide and seek, if you're not looking, you're not going to find. It's the same thing with God. If we're not looking, we won't find. But if we're looking, we will truly find. And the more we're connected to looking and being grateful for, the more we're going to want to get up and go and be of service. And that is really the purpose of this world. Okay, so with our time left, I want to really ask you guys to think about and contemplate. Whoa, escapism is super. It's really intense, especially in our times. It's really intense. This was written 2,000 years ago. It is so intense. Escapism, mindless chatter, being surrounded by that, by influences that pull down, not giving into temptation, escaping the importance of life. These are serious things. How can I confront them in my own life?
Hi, Ellie. It's Hannah again. I have some guests here. Say hi.
I noticed that. Hello.
Hi there. And anyway, I just wanted to say again, would stand with us. I really feel that like last night, there was so much love and so much wonderful, positive energy in the room. And I think that's what we have to do. I mean, when I wake up in the morning and I do my mudani, and then I wash my hands, I start with a very positive attitude. And one thing that I've stopped doing, I hate to say this, Ellie, but I don't watch the news anymore.
Oh, wow.
Because
Really? Is that really true? You don't watch any news? Read any news?
well, I get my news from Facebook. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, days near.
No. I try not to watch the news because when I do watch, I get the news from Israel, which is not always great either. But I try to watch things that I identify with. I don't know if it's right or wrong, but this is what I do because I just feel that this stage of my life, I just had a big birthday. I want to be around positive, happy people. And it's like my rabbi in Arizona, Rabbi Alush, which my friends know. She's from Arizona. I find that he says that it's like we have control over what we do and see.
Yeah.
Okay? And I just find that if I watch the news, I was watching something the other day, El Sharpton was on. I thought it was going to vomit.
Okay, no, don't get into specifics, but get into what not watching the news does for you.
Well, it does that. I think positive. I cannot take what's going on. Anyway, that's me. Somebody else.
Yeah. So knowing that the news brings you down, you're making a conscious decision not to constantly watch it. I give you a lot of credit. I'm not there. Who else? What? Yeah, Rhonda. Hi, Rhonda.
Hi. So good to see you.
Hi, so
wonderful. I agree with Hannah. I don't watch the news anymore. I read the newspaper every day. I turn the news on for the sports, which can be sad, but it's only a game. But I was reading an article and it was about a woman who was talking to her psychologist and she was very anxious. And the psychologist told her, is there anything you do? And she's talking, he goes, stop watching the news. And I don't watch the news anymore. I get all the news from the newspaper. I read it every day. If something's upsetting, I just skip it. And I like to think that I'm informed, but I think it's really been beneficial to my mental health not to turn the TV on and see all the ads for the election ads, to see all the killing and the bad things that are going on in this world. That, I don't know, when it's TV, it's like it encompasses you. When it's a newspaper, you can read it and then go to the next article. So I agree with Hannah on that. I think we have to do everything we can to keep our spirits up. And that's one way I do it.
Very interesting. Thank you. Yeah, Leslie.
So nothing to do with the news. I was just thinking about the message that we talked about today. So I've always been a working mom. I've kept a big career going through, and definitely questioned that and its impact on my kids, and no one I knew worked, and all that stuff. But I have to say now that I'm an empty nester, as are all my friends, they're like so lost, like who am I and what is my purpose in this world? And I think not staying busy, not replacing that parenting with something like what Hannah does, right? Like something, to a reason to get up in the morning, and not to just be waiting all day for happy hour at 5, and to like make a difference in this world. It's the perfect time to be able to do that. And I think it leads to, like, I've seen a bunch of them are like deeply depressed because they're like I just don't feel like I have a reason in this world anymore. And there's a really long life between 55, hopefully, and whatever it is, 100 and something years old, hopefully. And so I think it's such good, like there's so much good advice built into that Mishnah.
Yeah, you're really bringing up something that I saw and experienced in my own life, and being in Chicago. Definitely see exactly what you're talking about, and the pain that people feel when there isn't an inherent that they can't locate a purpose to their day and to their time. Very real.
So the Mishnah gives its advice in addition to wisdom. I think it leads to such good things for everybody.
Yeah, very, very much. Yeah, Susie. Oh, you're muted, Susie. Unmute.
I find that studying the words of the elders and the Torah motivates me to try to find good things, mitzvot, to do. And I think that I'm much happier when I have a Torah class on a day than when I don't. It gives me the impetus and the thought process to, I love what you said, recognition of gratitude spurs you to action. It spurs me to action. It makes me want to do. And so we're all doing that, but we could up our game. We could learn more.
It's true, Susie. You're also I think you're also talking about like having a kavod, like bringing more fixed Torah study, whatever form it takes, whether it's a class or having a partner in Torah, or even just reading the Torah portion or an article on Aish. It keeps you like it keeps you in the game. It keeps you conscious of what's important, of values. It's Susie's bringing up, and makes you happier. Taking, especially in a world where we waste so much time, like on Netflix, etc. Taking time where you would just waste it, sitting down and getting used to reading the Torah portion or whatever it is. It's very happiness producing. You feel anchored in something larger than yourself, motivated to see yourself as part of something greater and more meaningful than this sort of atomized and individualized and sort of lonely, anxious world, that you're part of something bigger and purposeful. I agree wholeheartedly, Susie. I think it just increases happiness and a feeling of meaning and belonging very much.
Oh yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking, and you articulated it so beautifully. Thank you.
I relate to it, and I know you really live that, and it's very real for you. Who just raised their hand? Linda? Yeah, hi, Linda.
Hi, yeah, thinking about what Sue said and what Leslie said, thinking about the Mishnah and thinking about trying to see the big picture and trying to make a contribution to make the world a better place. What about what seems to be perhaps small, but can perhaps give somebody an intellectual lift, or a poetic lift, or an aesthetic lift? What about the weaver, the crafter, the painter, the sculptor? They're not, quote unquote, fixing all the world's problems and bringing peace and ending poverty and putting food on everyone's tables and increasing agricultural yields and slowing down climate change. What about these little things, seemingly little things, can touch upon the human spirit, another human being's spirit?
What do people think about that?
Well, Linda, I think just about everybody falls into that category. I mean, not too many people are drafting legislation, not too many people are leading countries, not too many people are actively at the forefront of climate, the climate change. So I think that's actually what we all do. I mean, we all do small things that add up to the way we move through the world, conduct ourselves, and affect and touch other people.
Mhm.
And I think even people with big jobs end up doing that too, because I think at the end of the day, when it's time for them to face their maker, if they ask, what are the most important things you've done? What are your most valuable contributions? Where do you find happiness? Most of them are going to say family and children. They're not going to say, I don't know, finding a cure to cancer necessarily. It's the difference between what we do and who we are.
That last point can't be said
You want to
enough.
talk about that a little bit more, the difference between who we are and what we do?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think I'm going back to one of my first lessons in this class. I am a soul, I have a body. So what we do is, I mean, the first thing that somebody's going to ask you when they meet you, other than, talking about the weather, is what do you do? And why do they ask you that question? Because they want to get to know you. So you tell them you're a lawyer, you tell them that you're a homemaker, you tell them that you're an architect. Do they really get to know you? Not really. I mean, what they do is they make assumptions about you because of what you do. They want to know what your name is. Why do they want to know what your name is? Because they want to be able to identify you. They ask you, where do you live? Do you own a home or you rent an apartment? But those things don't really tell them very much about who you are, essentially, do they?
Right. Nicely said.
Really nice, Stephen.
Yeah.
Really powerful. Really powerful.
Well, I guess I can also say, in response to the news thing, I know that there was a day during COVID when I really wasn't listening very much to my news. The primary news source is NPR. So if I'm at home, I'm not listening to the radio. If I'm in the car, I am. So I turn on the radio, and after having not listened to the news for maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks, I kind of felt news overload, anxiety almost immediately. But now I'm finding I have almost the exact opposite reaction. It's not so much that I'm consuming news. I don't watch news. I don't listen to local news because it always, the headline is always killing. But what I have been doing a lot lately is I've been listening to podcasts, New York Times, which is basically, presented by journalists. And it's giving me an opportunity actually to not only hear sometimes a different point of view, but it's also giving me an opportunity to think a little bit deeply about the things that I tend to think about. And actually, as a result, I feel actually that I have greater awareness. I feel there's greater growth and greater understanding. We're not going to talk politics, but I think I have a better understanding of why things are happening the way that they are. Now, whether I'm right or wrong, I don't know, but at least in my own mind, I'm feeling I kind of understand, and I feel good because of it.
I hear that. That's excellent. Anybody else? Yeah, hi, Adrian. Oh, you have a pretend hand above you. Do you see?
We have a choice of what we focus on. So today I'm going to focus happy birthday, Susie. Because it is her
Tomorrow. It's tomorrow.
It
Tomorrow.
Thank you. I'll take your
Yeah,
wishes in
tomorrow.
advance.
I knew it was tomorrow. Oh, Adrian, thank you for. Does anyone just want to say a word about Susie? Adrian, you're elected.
Gonna go so to focus on good things.
We might do this tomorrow too in class. But I won't see it. So for selfish reasons, Adrian, say something about Susie.
So anyhow, we can choose to focus on the good, or we can get mired in what's not so good. If we can't always control it, but your perspective, if you do it often enough, it happens. So look for the good, focus on the good.
Focus on the good. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And on the topic of Zerizus, alacrity, and my dear friend Susie, the birthday girl, I would just like to say, probably more than almost anyone I know, when I think of Susie, I think of Rosh Hashanah. And I think of what should I focus, what am I going to do this year? What's going to be my focus this year? Susie, you always have an eye on growing and you know, probably somewhat connected to what Stephen said, the idea that we're not just doers, we're human doings, we're human beings. We are a soul, we have a body, we are, our essential selves are spiritual and growth oriented. And you always have your eye to what's next in your journey. And that really is the depth of Rabbi Dosa's point. Rabbi Dosa is essentially saying, we have a big part of us that just doesn't want to confront that life is for growth, but life is for growth. And you really embody that. You really, truly embody that.
Thank you, Ellie.
Debbie, is that a hand of agreement or a comment?
Oh, an agreement and a comment was that Susan Futterman is a gift to the world.
I'm going under the table.
Where'd she go?
I hid.
That's in a nutshell.
No, I agree with you.
Thank
I think
you,
you're an
Debbie.
inspiration, Susie, and I always love hear how you talk about your bubby and how much she gave to you, and I really, that's really so sweet. And well,
Wait, we have another fan. Hold on. This program is interrupted with a hand, Wender's hand.
I have to add my 2 cents worth in. Not only do I love Susan, she has enriched my life. She has given me, just by talking to me about things, and she has given me advice with so much good advice, and she's just such a wonderful, wonderful person. And I am truly blessed to have her in my life, and Debbie too. I moved, some of you don't know, I moved here. Jeff and I moved back here. Jeff's from here. I'm from California. I knew just a couple people that I had worked with, but all of Jeff's friends just took me under their wings, and I had a built-in second family, and Debbie and Susan and a few other people, but they've been total gifts in my life. And there was one point when I was really, really struggling, when Jeff was diagnosed and things were not good and whatever. And Susan looked at me and she said, "It's in Hashem's hands." And it was like the weight was lifted off my shoulder. And I've thanked her for that so many times, but she's just such a special person.
I'm speechless.
We love you, Susie. Well,
We love you.
Thank you all for your very
you're
kind
Susie to
words.
us, but you're clearly Susan to Debbie and Rhonda. That goes
And
way
we've known her a lot longer.
Yeah.
We love you very much. You are a role model for Rabbi Dosa's words, an incredible, amazing woman, a growth-oriented Jew, and an incredible friend. You should have health and blessing, and you and your family and all the world should have good news this year, a year of clarity, a year of growth, a year of alacrity, a year of getting up and going and confronting life and growing through it and seeing Hashem through the hiddenness and everything that you already model to us so much.
Amen.
Thank you,
All
Ellie.
right, I gotta put a hoodlum to bed. I gotta go.
Hoodlum. Well, tell that hoodlum good night.
It's a nice thing, everybody.
Bye.
I hope he's not doing one of Rabbi Dosa's transgressions right now.
Thank you, Allie. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye,
Thanks,
everybody.
Allie.
Bye,
Bye.
everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.